concentrate on is what we do know and have an action plan for potential scenarios of best case to worst case scenario, and have departments lock and loaded, ready to go with an action plan that deals with those different scenarios. And in my conversations with our CAO and staff, they are targeted to come up with those potential scenarios, because they know that the money may be tight, that different amounts may surface depending on the action of the governor, the action of the state legislature, what happens with our economy. So what I'm saying is, we do know where we're at now. We know that we have a target of 1.3, and I concur, I do not have the ability to accurately forecast through the crystal ball what's going to happen between now and the state's budget and those variables. But given that we know where we are right now at 1.3, I believe our CAO is trying to fill that gap with our 32 different departments and our net county costs connected with those 32 departments to get to the 1.3. And I believe that every department has a clear message that these variables are unknown, and the 1.3 could be 2, or it could be 3, or it could be $500,000. We don't know, but what we do know at this point in time, 1.3, and so we should prudently project that we need to reduce our budget to meet that budget target of 1.3, and I think we're well on task of doing that. So
I would agree we're better off, and I feel that this county has done a great job over the last 3 years. I just don't feel comfortable with anything.
No,
I think we didn't take a hiatus. We just got sick and tired of going through it and said, I've had enough, and, you know, it's not gonna change, so let's do something else for the time being.
This is a good discussion here. Hold on. John, I understand. I totally understand. I've not lived in a world, from where I come from in my industry, it has been a constant reduction almost my entire adult life with regards to budgets. So I get it, but I see our CAO's office looking at this 1.3 and coming up with innovative ways. We're going to do a reorg this afternoon. We're looking at other organizations. This should be a clear message to department heads that we need to be ready to go. Norma?
I hope you're right with the 1.3.
Do you want to do, and I agree with you, Supervisor Knight, I wouldn't recommend just saying, we're going to do a X% across the board cut. We're way beyond that, because there's some departments that simply cannot take an X% cut. They won't be able to operate. And so we will be coming back to you with, well, you can pick from this column or this column. You know, we'll be going back to, you know, questions that we had for you in November. So yes, you feel like you're a little in the dark because we tried to give you a breather from November, okay? But now, we're ready.
Right.
You know, we
So-
got them in yesterday. We'll be coming back
Right.
almost weekly with more information for you.
So what do you feel about this whole idea of a recap meeting in May?
Absolutely.
Well, we haven't-
We'll do it as soon as we can, because as soon as we've been able to digest and get all of the budgets together, we'll need some guidance.
Right. We're, the way I'm looking at this budget is I'm trying to break it down into very simplistic parts. What we know, what we don't know. You use what we don't know as meaningful, meaning we don't know what's going to happen from the state. We don't know exactly where we're going to land with the property tax. We don't know where we're going to land with the sales tax, et cetera, et cetera. But the plane is coming in, the airstrip is in front of us, we're trying to make a landing. The landing is a balanced budget. And so the wind is coming, and we're trying to maneuver so we have a clear, straight path. And what I see is the 1.3 that we need to get to make that perfect landing. And if there's other variables, then that number goes up or down, and we adjust as they come in.
Right.
If we want to be prudent, we may want to target a little bit more than 1.3. However, my question is, what are the timelines? We're here at April, beginning of April. When do we go into budget hearings, and when do we need a budget adopted?
Okay, we have scheduled for you toward the end of May, functional group meetings,
Okay.
so that,
No, I understand, just the actual hearings and then when we adopt the budget. I just need those two dates.
You have to adopt a budget by June 30.
Okay, so we got June 30, so how,
And I shouldn't, let me clarify, you don't have to, if you don't adopt a budget by June 30, what happens is that the 10-11 budget just rolls and becomes your 11-12 budget.
okay. See, for
I was
me, when
hoping
I,
they threw the
when
chairman in
you're-
jail.
Oh, that's fine. Well, I can do a lot of reading, I guess. Do they allow you to read there? So for me, the 1.3 in June 30th, that's a short window. So you have to have an adopted, you have to pick up that gap of 1.3 to get to that landing when we adopt the budget. All right?
When we present the budget to you on May 27th, we present a balanced budget. So the document that you have in front of you on the 27th will be balanced.
Okay, so we have other variables that are working, obviously. I mean, and I know about that. I mean, we're dealing with that day in and day out, what some of those variables are to get that 1.3. All right.
And-
No, I'm satisfied we're gonna hit that landing just fine.
and I would to bring this,
I'm optimistic. I'm
Have
not.
a golden
pe- pes-
parachute? Or handshake, whatever they call it.
I would bring it
well,
back to the
you're-
agenda item. One of the variables is what's going on in the sheriff's office. So you were getting back to opening it up to
But we
public
have the FAM,
comment.
we have the FAM from the sheriff's department. He turned around and he sat down, and I really appreciate that because you gotta listen to the entire context of what's going on, and you're the guy that gives the sheriff and the undersheriff the best information as to how we work as a team, the board, the sheriff's department, the electives, and put this whole package together. I think we beat this up pretty good. I know that you're trying to get to
The date
provide
of it.
direction. I know you're trying to get to that
It's not
piece of it,
important.
Norma.
But
Is there-
we haven't had public comment yet on it
I
either.
understand. Let me do that. Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak on this agenda item number 22, the sheriff's budget? Anybody wishing to speak may do so right now. Seeing no one, come forward. I'll bring it back to the board.
It's a receiving file.
Well, it's actually provide direction pertaining to the same for 11 and 12. Is there anybody that wishes to do that?
Well, I heard this, and I think that because there's all kinds of numbers floating around, and I think a recap meeting would be good. And I don't know whether you want to include that just as a regular agenda item. I'm looking to you to tell me what would be a great day to do that, what Tuesday would be a great day to do that, just so that we are all on the same page in terms of what we know.
Are we talking the county overall or the sheriff?
Perhaps we could schedule them, I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's all right.
Perhaps we could schedule them on the same day. We could schedule it at a regular Tuesday meeting, which I would suggest April 26th. If you want to put aside a Monday in a workshop format, we could do April 25th.
Board's desire, if it's necessary. Do you think it's necessary? I mean, there's a lot of things coming at us, and are you gonna have adequate information by then?
Yeah.
Yeah, we also should start really taking a look at 1213. I mean,
Yeah.
now.
Now, you mentioned something about ongoing cost savings. What did you mean by that? Are we taking items that are just one-time cost? What items are those? That
Yes.
means that they're not ongoing, which means it only helps us this budget and not gets us to 11, 12, 12, 13.
So for example, that the sheriff is, at the end of this year, he's assuming that or projecting that he'll have about $1 million in savings. Those savings are related to vacant positions or, a multitude of factors. Those are just one time. We're using those savings to help fill our gap in 11, 12. So those savings are going towards the gap.
But if you were to, let me see if I understand this, so I stay with you.
Okay.
He mentioned that that money was swept into the general fund, correct? But the vacancies are still there, which means they have to be funded again, and then the money's swept again. Is that what we're talking about?
No, I thought he said, Ray, that he's gonna sweep some and keep some, and he didn't define which and how many.
Okay.
The quantity was left out.
I cut you off, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. So, and it may not be those specific specific positions, but those are savings that he's able to achieve through his budget in the current year. So we can't count on those as ongoing, because he's going to, you can't count them twice. He'll already be giving up some vacant positions to meet his target for 11-12. So those savings roll over in what we call our fund balance, and that's one time in nature, but we are utilizing that to help plug some of that $7 million shortfall that we were
But if
just
the
talking
vacancy
about.
comes off the books, that's ongoing.
Not if you
It
don't have
is,
the
but
position.
he's already counting that towards his target. So yes, that is a sustainable savings. As are, for example, the employee contributions to PERS, the 1.9 million that I referenced
Oh, I get it.
earlier.
I
That's
understand.
also a sustainable cut.
Okay. Any further questions? We've gone to the public, we've come back.
Do you think, Terry? Laura? So, do you think there'd be enough information that we could handle that just in a regular Tuesday meeting? Just a recap.
If you're directing the sheriff, or you're requesting that the sheriff come back on that same day, I'm guessing it would take 3 hours, maybe 2. We could do it in an afternoon. I will point out the reason I suggested the 25th is originally that was scheduled for you as a general plan update meeting,
Yeah.
but we're not going to be using that as that. So if you'd like to do it in a workshop format, we could take the morning and do it. I mean, April 25th, what did I say?
Okay,
So we're not having the general plan update meeting on the 25th?
Well, at this point, we've continued the items to next week to the 12th. Your board certainly could decide on the 12th to continue,
To have that workshop on the 25th, okay.
but at this point, we have not scheduled it.
so board's desire? We have budget updates every week, but if the board wants to get into more depth, that's the board's desire. Supervisor Sweeney?
I'll move to request the sheriff, use the word request. Move to request the sheriff to return on April 25th. Right? At a workshop with us, with this board, the CAO, on his budget to bring forth the staffing patterns and organizational charts with reasoning as to why we need certain positions and don't need others, and the information that'll help this board understand the need for those staffing patterns.
As well as a recap of where we are.
With regards to the variables.
And for the CAO to bring back the recaps of where we are on the variables.
I'll second that motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this item? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, none. Okay, we have one more item for this morning. Do you guys want to take a break or get through it?
Get through it.
Suzanne, do you need a break?